Welcome to the deep dive, where we take the source material you've provided, try to cut through all the political noise, and just deliver the core insights you need. Today we're looking at electric vehicles, EVs, and that one central claim that they are zero emission.
It's a huge claim.
It is, and it's become, foundational for climate policy. You hear it from policymakers like Stephen Gilboat, who said switching to an EV is one of the most impactful things Canadians can do.
Right.
And we even saw the Carney government have to pause the EV sales mandate just to review the whole thing, so it's a big deal. Our mission for this deep dive is to really test that zero-emission ideal. We all know there's no tailpipe, no exhaust.
Of course.
But that's just the beginning. We're going to unpack the entire life cycle of an EV, from the mine to the road and all the way to the scrapyard, because the sources you sent suggest that the second you look past that tailpipe, well, the picture gets a lot murkier.
And we should start by saying that core advantage is absolutely real. You can't argue with it.
A tailpipe.
The tailpipe. EVs completely eliminate that immediate local pollution. You get rid of the nitrogen dioxide, the carbon monoxide, and of course the greenhouse gases, the CO2 that come out while you're driving. That is a massive, undisputed win for air quality in our cities.
Okay, so that part is true.
Absolutely. But that local benefit can sometimes distract us from the full global picture. The sources really force us to look at the entire life cycle, and that's where you find the hidden costs. It's a whole different kind of accounting. So, okay, let's unpack this.
Let's start right at the beginning. Before the car even sees a road. The normal assumption is that a car's emissions happen when it's driving.
Right.
But the sources point out this incredible paradox. For an EV, a huge chunk of its lifetime greenhouse gas emissions actually happen before anyone even buys it.
That's the central finding from the manufacturing analysis.
Yeah.
It just takes more fossil fuel energy to build an EV than a traditional gas car. The basic body, the chassis, that's all pretty similar. But the battery, well, that's what blows up the carbon footprint.
And the battery is where this story of hidden costs really kicks off, isn't it? This isn't just a simple assembly line process.
Oh, not at all. Far from it. This is about intensive, very high energy processing of some very specific raw materials. We're talking about the supply chains for cobalt, for graphite, lithium, manganese, and nickel.
All mined resources.
Exactly. And their extraction and then the chemical processing to purify them, that often involves super high heat, chemical refining. It is all just incredibly energy intensive.
Which right away makes me think about geography and logistics. These materials aren't all, coming from the country where the car is built.
Not even close. You have to layer on the transport. These materials are mined in one place, processed in another, refined into parts somewhere else, and then they're all shipped across huge international distances to these gigafactories.
And then shipped again.
Shipped again to be put into the car. Every single step in that global chain is, for the most part, powered by fossil fuels today. It creates this enormous upfront carbon commitment before the car has driven a single kilometer.
And the sources put a number on that commitment. We learned that, on average, the whole manufacturing process, from mining to final assembly, produces twice the greenhouse gases as making a comparable gas-powered car.
Twice.
That's a staggering initial carbon debt.
It is. It's this weight the EV carries right off the assembly line. And what that means in practice is, well, the car starts its life in a deficit. You might be driving for, 1 to 3 years, maybe even more, just to break even on the manufacturing emissions alone.
That really changes the whole equation for a consumer or a policymaker. If a battery is supposed to last, say, 10 years, but you spend the first 2 or 3 just paying off the manufacturing debt.
The margin for an environmental win gets a lot smaller, very fast.
Right.
It does. And that initial debt has to be paid back with clean driving. Which, of course, brings us to the second hidden cost and maybe the most important factor of all, where the electricity comes from.
This is the real pivot point, isn't it? The whole environmental argument for an EV seems to hang on what comes next. Once it's on the road, its carbon footprint is all about the grid.
It is. And this is where a national policy runs straight into provincial reality here in Canada.
Okay.
The Canada Energy Regulator Report illustrates this perfectly.
Yeah.
You look at a province like BC or Manitoba, Quebec, even Ontario.
Yeah.
Their grids are dominated by hydro, nuclear, other low-carbon sources.
So charging an EV there is pretty clean.
It's very clean. The indirect emissions are tiny. That manufacturing debt gets paid down fast. But then you look at Alberta, Saskatchewan, or Nova Scotia.
Very different picture.
Completely. They still rely heavily on fossil fuels, coal, and natural gas to generate electricity. So when you plug in your EV there, Those zero tailpipe emissions are really just being shifted up the pipe to the power plant. The indirect emissions are suddenly huge.
And the research from the University of Toronto gave us that really stark, extreme example that just flips the whole narrative.
It does.
They looked at places in the U.S. that are super dependent on coal, like West Virginia. And when you look at the entire lifetime of an EV there, mining, building it, charging it, scrapping it, it can actually emit about 6% more GHGs than a comparable gas car.
6% more.
More, not less, more.
It's a statistic that's a huge blind spot for most people. It just shatters the assumption that any EV is always better than any gas car.
Yeah.
If your power source is dirty, you could actually be doing more harm than good over the vehicle's life.
So if the outcome depends completely on the local grid, how can a national policy, like that sales mandate, justify a one-size-fits-all approach? Doesn't this data suggest a province like Alberta should be focused on cleaning its grid first before anything else?
That's the exact question this analysis raises. The environmental value of an EV is, in a way, geographically determined. If the electric car arrives before the clean grid does, the policy might actually be counterproductive for the climate.
So you're just moving the problem.
You're just moving the emission source, and maybe even making it worse because of that huge manufacturing burden we talked about. It forces you to ask, is the goal to cut local smog or to cut global greenhouse gases? If it's the latter, cleaning up energy has to come before forcing vehicle adoption.
That's a very powerful point. So let's move to the end of the line. The car's life is over, the battery is dead. What happens then? This is the third hidden cost, the disposal dilemma.
Right. When that EV is taken off the road, the battery becomes this persistent environmental problem. We're kind of circling back to the beginning, to those materials, the lithium, cobalt, nickel.
All that stuff we spent so much energy digging up.
Exactly. We spent a ton of energy getting them, and now we have to figure out how to recover them.
And the sources say recycling these things is not like recycling a pop can. They're described as notoriously challenging. Why is that?
It's about complexity and energy. The battery cells are sealed, they're layered. They have hundreds, even thousands of individual parts, all held together with chemical binders. You have to somehow separate the valuable stuff, like the cathode metals, from everything else.
How do you even do that?
Well, it requires these very specialized energy-guzzling processes. Things like hydrometallurgy, which uses powerful chemical solvents, or pyrometallurgy, which basically means melting the battery down into a metallic slag or a black mass. Both are expensive and really hard to scale up safely.
Okay, so given all those challenges, what's the reality of battery recycling today on a global scale?
The sources are pretty sobering on this. The tech is definitely emerging. It shows promise. But the reality right now is that only about 5% of lithium-ion batteries are actually recycled worldwide.
5%? That is an incredibly low number.
It is. The huge majority end up in landfills or are just stored somewhere waiting for a better solution.
So if you connect that 5% figure back to the manufacturing problem we started with, what does that mean for the idea of a circular economy for EVs?
It means that today, the circular economy is mostly a promise. It's not a reality. That low recycling rate tells you that almost every new EV hitting the road is built with a battery that has zero recycled content.
Wow.
It's all built from brand new energy-intensive mined materials. Until we can actually close that loop, the disposal problem just keeps reinforcing that high initial carbon debt. We're just digging a deeper hole with every new car we make.
Okay, that really puts it in context. So let's just summarize the key findings for you, the listener. We've gone way beyond zero tailpipe emissions. First, manufacturing. It creates a carbon debt that's about double that of a gas car. Second, charging. It's total dependent on your local grid. If you're in a coal-heavy region, your EV could end up responsible for 6% more lifetime emissions.
Oh, yeah.
And third, disposal. The system just isn't there yet. Only 5% of batteries are recycled, which means we keep digging that manufacturing hole deeper.
Right. And the final analysis here is really about critical thinking. It's about demanding the whole picture. The technology is always improving. Batteries get better, grids get cleaner. But the core lesson is that EVs are not this automatic, one-size-fits-all, zero-emission fix.
You have to look at the whole system.
You must always demand the full life cycle analysis: manufacturing, charging, and scrapping. If policymakers are only talking about the tailpipe, they're ignoring two massive hidden costs, and that's an equation that, right now, often doesn't balance out.
So since that charging source is so critical to this entire calculation, the contrast between a place like Quebec and a place like Alberta couldn't be more stark. Here's a final thought for you to chew on. If the real priority is the climate, and a province with a high carbon grade has to choose, spend billions on EV purchase subsidies, or spend those same billions on cleaning up its power grid. Which investment gives you the bigger, the more immediate, and the more guaranteed climate benefit for all vehicles, electric or not? Something to think about. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.